Hello friends, my name is jayprkshpthk. In this particular video, this is a crash course for you know for DOM manipulation, and you will be learning everything about DOM manipulation in this particular video. So let's get started. We will start by creating a folder in which we will be doing everything in our project. So basically, let's create a folder in our desktop. So you can create a folder by simply right click, new folder, and let's name our project. So let's say JavaScript JavaScript script DOM. Basically, there the folder is created, and let's open this folder and let's open Visual Studio Code inside this. So if you are watching this, if you have watched my previous video, this process is similar. Open terminal over here, type code and enter, basically. And if you don't, if you find this method hard and you think like, how would I do it? That's basically, if you open VS Code, you can go to File, Open Folder, and you can select the folder on which you want to work. The result will be the same, right? The next thing which we'll be doing is let's create a file, the index.html file, and let's create an JavaScript file. So let's call it for now, let's call it dom.js file. So this will this will have all our JavaScript codes, and basically you can bring all the HTML template by simply typing this exclamation mark, hitting enter, and let's leave that basics and let's change. So DOM, okay, and that's I have changed the title. Other than that, you can leave everything as default. Okay, and now let's link our script file to this particular HTML file. So we can do this by simply writing the address of our script file. So this script file is actually linked now with our HTML file. So if you right click and open with live server, basically I could do this because I have an extension called live server. So it's called live server, and you can install this extension also if you want to see all the changes in real time. In your case it will open directly. In my case, my Firefox is crashing, I don't know why. So I'll be manually starting the server. You can see the title is DOM and we don't have anything, so basically that's okay. Let's keep it in one side, let's keep it in other side, and let's start coding. Basically let's go to DOM. And one more thing, if you don't know few basic things, if you press Control B, you can open and close the sidebar. If you Control Tab, you can switch between the tabs. These are some basic keys. I think you must be knowing this. Okay, so we are on the DOM dom.js or our JavaScript file. Okay, now let's talk about it. I want you to think of like this HTML file as a tree, and this tree on the top has the window. Okay, so if I log this window object, okay, window object, and save this, you'll see I can open the terminal by pressing the command Control Shift and I, or if you cannot do that, you can go to this menu bar, then more tools, and then developer tools, and you'll get this, and you can select console if it is not selected by default from here. Okay, so if I go to this window object, you can you can see all its properties. And if you remember, if you know basic JavaScript, this alert function, this blur function, this all these function, timeout function, clear timeout function, all these functions are actually are a function provided by this window object which you see here. So this is the top level top level object in our tree. Okay, so this window object actually has a property called document. Now this document, if I simply go, and this contains actually all of the HTML code which you write in the HTML file. So if I simply write document, and I see you'll see all your HTML code over here. You can see the head and the body and everything. So this document actually contains all the HTML code which you have written in your HTML file. So this is how, like, at the top we have window, and below that we have the document. And let me tell you what comes after. So documents have head, body, and all those things. Okay, so the basically DOM manipulation is like mostly done in the body. So if we say body and hit enter, you can see this our body of our page, body of our web page. That's okay. So let's now extract it as a variable. So let's say the body is equal to document dot actually, one more thing, I would like to tell you that you don't have to write window dot document, because it automatically detects. If you don't write anything, it will automatically do it as window dot, and you don't have to write it again and again. So let's write document dot body. Okay, so this is now our body object. Okay, so okay, that's great. Now let's say you want to put something into the body by JavaScript. So basically, so how would you do it? You can do it by something called append function. Append function. Okay, function, append function, append function. And how you can do this by append function, let's see. Append function is like much more versatile than I'm showing over here. I'll show you how, but like for now you can understand that this is used to add anything, append anything to our body of our HTML page. Okay, so you can say that body dot and then append, you can see, and you can write any text. Let's say test, and if I save it, you can see that test has been added to our web page. If I just zoom a little bit so that you can see the test has been added to our DOM very, very successfully. So you can add a text. Actually, it is much more versatile than this. Actually, you can give comma and you can add many other elements. So let's say test this one, and you can give space in between and save this. You can see all these things are also added to our DOM. That's great. But most of the time you don't want to add text in your DOM. Most of the time you want to add elements to your DOM, right? So next let's learn about creating an element and how you can create an element. Okay, so let's say we want an h1 element to be added to our DOM by the JavaScript. So you can do it very simply by creating an h1 element. Let's call it text. Okay, and we can say by document dot create element. So this is the function which helps us to create a document, to create an element. And you can see all the options came. You can create an h1, you can create an span, you can create a div, all sorts of element which you have in the HTML. So here we want to create an h1, so let's simply write this h1 basically. So once you write this h1, the text is actually an element. And if you go and add this text, you might not see it here, but it is actually in our DOM. Let me show you. So if you go to this elements, you'll see that this h1 is there inside our DOM. So if we have added it, but as h1 does not have any text inside it, so we are not able to see this in our browser. So how we can add a text inside this h1? That is also very simple. You have to write txt, and then there is actually two functions to add a text inside a h1. So the first is inner text. So we can say, hi, this is Jay. Okay, and you can see our element is visible very, very successfully. Like, let's create one more element. Let's call it text 1, and the command is very simple. Create element, and again we want to create an h1. And there is another command which I was talking about that you can use to put text inside an element, is called I think content, text content. Yes, it is called text content. And then you can say, hi, this is another line. Okay, and you must be thinking that why we have two things, let's say, and one more thing, you can give a comma and you can add multiple elements over here using append. So okay, that's great. So this is another line, and basically we are getting that thing. Okay, so as you can see, by mistake I've written here text 1. That's why we are not getting so once I correct it, you can see the two lines is appearing. Now you must be thinking that why we have two same things, for same purpose. Basically there is a slight difference. Okay, there's slight difference. Let me show you by showing you how it is. Let's say I introduce a new line over here. and let's say I introduce a new line over here. If I save this, you can see this, the inner text actually responds to all the new line spaces and all the things, but this text content doesn't respond, okay, to all the new lines. So this behaves as, as you will be writing a text inside this, here, so that will automatically be removed, all the spaces, all the extra new lines and all. So this behaves exactly as like that. That's text content, and this inner text actually preserves all the new line, all those stuff, all the tab and all. This preserves all those. This is the basic difference between an inner text and text content. So I hope so this was clear. Now let's move ahead, and I think, basically we have read about create element, putting text inside that element, appending our body with that element, and basically you can append anything, if you have a div, if you have a span, you can append that also. So that's something very, very good. Okay, so now let's move ahead. Okay, so let's now let it be like this thing, let be the same, and let's this time do a little bit, different. Let's create a div element. Okay, and let's say we want to add some HTML inside this div element. Now how will you do it? You can do it by, simply say text dot inner HTML, and you can simply, write any HTML markup, and that will work as you intended. So if you write h1, this is working, and if you save it, you will get it inside the text. So basically we have created. Now the problem is, we haven't included this in our body, so let's do that. So it's a body dot append the text which we have. So if you save this, you can see this is working. Even after this, you can write a paragraph tag, and this is all similar to this is okay. You can see this. Okay, we haven't put this properly. You can see this, we have added a paragraph property. So this is how you can add an inner HTML and HTML to this. Basically, most of the programmers and not most of, like the beginner programmer basically use this inner HTML to manipulate the DOM instead of creating a new element. So that's actually a very, very bad habit, because if let's say you are creating a to-do list app or any other app, and you simply put the input given by the user as an inner HTML to an element, what could happen is, if the user, if some hacker comes to your site, they can put malicious code, and that could be executed, and that could be dangerous for your site. So you should always avoid to use this inner HTML, and always create an element in your JavaScript and then append it to the particular another element. So that's the preferred way. Okay, now let's move ahead, and let's say, now we have included the text and all, but now we have to remove it from the DOM. So let's do a bit. Now we have two elements, as you can see. Now let's say, I want to remove this first one, text. Now basically there are two ways to do it. So we'll be learning both of them, and simply try to understand the difference between them. So like we can say text dot remove, and that will basically remove the first line. As you can see, the first line has been successfully removed. The other way, we'll be removing the other this another line by this another way. So the another way is, you can say body dot remove child, and you can give the child which you want to remove. So let's say I want to remove the text, so we'll say text and save this. Nothing happens. I think I have already removed the text. Yes, I have already removed the text. So now we have to remove the text 1. Okay, so let's save it. So you can see the text 1 is no more there in the DOM. Basically these are the two ways. Now I would like to explain remove element. If you give a command to any element that remove, so that simply the element is removed from the DOM. But if you want to tell a parent that remove this child from your from your children, so you this is the parent, right? So you're telling the parent that remove the child text 1 from yourself. So basically that will do its work. So I hope so this remove child and remove both were clear. Now let's do something fancier. So now we'll be talking about selecting anything inside your HTML element. So okay, basically I have clicked this one, cancel, we know append. Okay, so basically now we'll be talking about how to select an element inside your from from your JavaScript code. So let's say we have a span and we have say this is good, okay, and we have some ID, so let's say text, and you want to select it. Basically you have an ID and you have to select this particular element. So how you can do it, that's extremely simple. You can say let a or any name which you want, so I will name it a, and then you can say document dot get element by ID, and you can specify the ID. So as you can see, we have written ID as a text, so you have to write text, and then basically now you can you can do all sorts of function which we have discussed about before. So you can append it with any other thing, you can remove a child, you can add all those functions which you are seeing over here, which you can do with this particular function. So let's let for a demo, let's say I want to say that the inner text, I want this to be, this is the change text, basically. So you can say this is the change text, and we are referring this this a variable is referring to that text component which we have marked the ID text. I think that's very clear now. So let's say this is not just the one way. Basically there's like many ways. Let's say you have multiple div thing, and you have test inside this, and you have class test, and let's say you just don't have this once, you have this multiple times. So let's say okay, so just I wanted to tell you that you can select an element, you can refer to an element by its class, by its ID, or by its name, which is div, span, and all that. So you can refer by these three ways. So I'll show you the the ID way, right? So ID could be only one. Let's say you want to select all the elements with the class test. How you can do that? That's actually very easy. How will you do it? Let's say, so we'll say document dot get, and if you see the suggestions which we are getting, there are some suggestions called elements. So whichever suggestion has elements gives us a list of elements with that particular attribute, or with that particular property. Let's say we are talking about name, so it will give you all the elements with that particular name. If you are talking about tag name, that will give you all the elements with tag name. If you are talking about class name, this will give you all the elements with class name. So let's say we want with the class name. So what is the class name we have? Test. That's great. So we can go to the DOM, write test, and save. And if we log in this a now and go to the console, you can see that this is actually an HTML collection. Collection is, you can think of it as similar to an array. This contains all the elements which has the class name as test. So and now how to use this? You must be thinking how to use this a. So that's very easy. You can refer this by a at 0. That will basically work. Or you can do like for let the element of a, and if you don't know about these kinds of for loop, basically this is looping, this is iterating one by one. So the element, first time this will be the first element of this particular array, second time second, third, likewise. So if you log now this element, basically we are you can see we have one by one, we can see each element in our a as a list. So basically you can use any of these functions, tag name and all. So if you get it as a list, you can do it. And there's like one more function which is very versatile, and which is one of my favorite, and I always use it, is called query selector. So query selector is somewhat it works like jQuery if you have used. So if you say dot and you write anything, this will select all the things with this particular class name. Okay, so let's say I want to select all the things with test, but there is one issue. Let me show you. There's one issue, let me show you. So let's say I write test and I log this out. So I log this out. You can see it only shows one. In why? We have multiple things called test, because there's another function called query select all, and this is used to select all the occurrences. Okay, if you use query selector, it will only select the first occurrence in the list. So you can see this is the node list. This contains all the occurrences of that particular class. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you that query selector all is actually used for selecting all those elements with that particular thing. Basically the query selector could be used by you can specify the name, you can specify the ID, ID by simply writing a hashtag okay. It's not Twitter, but still hashtag. You can write a dot and something like that will be a class name, and likewise, okay. So you can select anything using query selector. So what we have learned that we can select an element using query selector all, get element by id, get element by class name, get elements by class name. Basically there are all, lots of functions. Basically you can go through them each one by one if you want. So let's say now let's remove all these things, okay. And here we have a span, right? This is good, and this is like this div called test. So let's remove this test also, we don't need that. Okay, so let's say you want these are the attributes of this particular element, these are the properties of this particular element, and you want to get, you want to see what is the property inside your JavaScript. How you can do that? That is actually very, very easy. So let's refer to that element first. So we'll say document dot get element by id, and basically the id will be the id of the element over here. So if you go there, you can see the id is text, okay. So you can write txt, that will be the id of that particular element, okay. So now let's say you want the id property, and you want to check what is the id. Basically we know the id over here will be different to other properties as well. So for now, like let's say you want to know the id. So how you can do that? Simply you can cite a dot get attribute, okay, and you can write what attribute you want to see. So if I want the id and save it, you can see the text as an id, okay. So basically you can go much more versatile in this. Let's say I specify a title attribute, and I say this is dope, okay, and I save this. If you go this, okay, that's working. So you can get that proper attribute also. Simply change this by from this to title, and you'll get that. But getting this as like writing get attribute and then attribute name is like somewhat difficult. So there's a shorthand for this. You can simply go like this and write title. That will basically do the same work, and it is much more short and clean. So if like basically get attribute you can use when the default the property which you want is not available directly as a property of that particular element. So if it is this is very rare, but if it is not available, then you can use get attribute, or you can refer it directly like this. Okay, that's great. Now let's say you want to set an attribute, okay. So let's say we don't have this title over here, and you have to set this is dope as the title of the span. How you can do this? That is also very easy. So you can write a dot set attribute, and then you can specify the attribute which you want. So this is dope basically, and then then what you can do is you have to specify okay, this is the second, the content is second, and first you have to specify which attribute you are title and comma. So basically first you have to specify what was the name of the attribute, and then you have to specify the value of the attribute. And if you save this, basically you don't see any changes. You can see that this is working. If you go to elements, and you can see that the title attribute has been successfully applied to that particular element. So that's something great, okay. Now let's move ahead. Actually there's one more feature. Let's say we have the attribute as it is, and you want to remove this attribute. You don't want this attribute which is there as a title, and you want to remove this from the span. Basically you can do that also by a function which is known as remove attribute. So you have to specify the attribute name which you want to remove. So I want to remove title attribute. So let's save this, and now if you go, nothing is appearing because the title attribute has been removed. As you can see, the spam is without, in the HTML we have the attribute, but with our code we have successfully removed the attribute which we want. So what we have learned about attribute? We have learned about getting an attribute, setting an attribute, and removing an attribute. So that's something great. Now let's move ahead and learn about data data attributes and how they work. So let's say I'm not I'm happy with all those attributes which I have, but I want some of my custom attributes, some of my custom things there inside my HTML file. So how you can do this? Actually that is also very, very simple. What you have to do is simply you have to specify data, and then you can write anything. Let's say I want data attribute to be happy. So is this element happy or not? So let's say true. So this element is happy, and you want to access this from the JavaScript. So how will you do it? Actually that's also very simple. If you log a dot now is called data set. Okay, and actually this has all the attributes. So if I save this, this has all the basically all the data, whatever you initialize by data and then hyphen, it will show you over here. So let's say I want to access the happy one, so I'll say dot happy. Okay, and this is how you do it. And let's say you want you go for like some more like happy, let's say you write is this happy. So let's say is this happy, you have an element, you are getting undefined because we have changed the name. So how we can access this? Okay, so how will you access this? Because now what you have to do is you have to camel case the name. So we have is this and then happy. So what you can do is you can write is this and then happy in the like this. So you have to camel case and you'll get the property over here as it is. So that's something great. Basically one more thing, this attribute thing, it's not what you can get only, you can set an attribute to. And let's see how. Okay, you can set an attribute by simply saying a dot dataset dot now the name of the attribute. So let's say our attribute name is happy car, and let's set it to true. Okay, and if you do that, you don't see anything changed over here. But if you go to elements, you can see that this has an attribute called data happy car true. So this this is like interchanged. So basically you have happy and then car camel cased, so that is actually hyphened over this HTML thing. So I hope so you understand how data set and data attributes work in JavaScript. Now let's go ahead and learn more about classes and how this class thing works and what you can do with these classes, because this is used a lot in styling stuff, and we'll be learning about that thing right now. So let's see how it is done. So first of all, what you have to do is, let's say we want we have some classes. So let's say this is class 1, class 2. Basically you would have multiple things. So let's say I want to have I want to print all the classes which is there inside this A. So how will you do this? So that's simple. A dot class list. Okay, and save it. So basically you can see it as a DOM token list. So that we have two classes. First is the class 1, second is the class 2. And actually this class list is much more advanced than it looks. So basically you can do a lot more things. So first of all, if you go and write class list dot add and then you specify any class name, let's say test3 as in class name, and if you save this and go to elements, you can have if you go, I have written 2. Okay, let's write 3. You can see that the class 3 is added as a class to this particular element. Okay, so like this you can add a class to a particular element. Now let's say how would you like remove a class. So let's say there's a command called remove, there's a function called remove, you can use this. So let's say I want to remove the class 2 from my list. So you can see this from my classes. So you can see this, the class 2 has been removed from our class from the class of this particular span element. So that's how you remove. So basically we have learned two things. First is add class, second is remove class, and there's one more thing which is very cool, that is switch. That is toggle. Actually toggle is very useful. Let's say you want to toggle, sorry, let's write toggle over here, and let's say you write like I want to toggle the class 2. So basically what it will do is, if the class 2 is there inside this element, it will remove it, and if it is not there, it will put it there. So if I call this multiple times, let's say if I call it 2 times, you'll see the class has been added, because if it interchanged, it toggle the class. If it is there, it will remove it. If it is like it is not there, it will add it. So I hope so you could understand how toggle works. Okay, now let's move ahead and talk one more thing. It's toggle. So it's not important that you may have a boolean over here and you can set true or false. So if you set it true, the class will be added, and if you set it false, the class will be removed. So if you say let's say if I write false, the class is removed, as you can see, and if I write true, the class will be added. I hope so that was clear. Now let's say you want to change the style of element in your DOM. so you can use a property called a dot style, and then you can, you have all sorts of css properties to work with. So let's say I want to change the color, so I can say blue, and if I save this, the color of the element has been changed to blue. And it's not limited to the color, you can change basically any css property using your JavaScript. So I hope so that was helpful and you learned something from this video. And now, let's not finish this video like this. Let's create something interesting, so that you also feel good after after this all this hard work which we have done together. So let's create something interesting. Now basically we will be creating by the last thing which we have learned, the style element. So let's do one thing. Let's remove this one and let's create a div element. Let's create another div element inside this. Let's give it a class and let's call it container. So container, okay, and let's give it a class. Let's call it box and save it. Let's create a css file, style.css, and okay, style.css, and let's do one thing. Let's say container, basically like this, UNTINER. Container width is 100 pixel%, height is 100 VH, width, height, and then what, maybe display as flex. If you don't know about this, that's okay. Just I want to show you what can you do with this, with this knowledge which you have right now. So display, justify, content, space between, center, and then align item center, basically, and then we'll say perspective, so like 600 pixel. Basically we are making like something 3D, so that's why we are giving it perspective. If you're not getting it, that's totally okay. So this is something interesting which I found, so just I'm showing you. So box, not a boss, and if you go to index.nl, that is that box. Yes, that's it, that is box actually. Yeah, so box, and we want to say that the width will be 200 pixel, the height will also be 200 pixel, and the background color will be back color will be red, okay, and we want to say transform style to preserve 3D, and basically you can see that, you can save this. And we have not linked our HTML file yet, so let's do that. Link css /style.js. okay, so you can see that here we have our this over here. So basically but it is not at center, basically, you can see. Let's make it like a little bit, reset. Basically this container is, the spelling is I think wrong, so let's paste this over here and save this. Basically you can see now it is in the center. Now what we'll do is we'll just give it an ID. We'll give it an ID. Let's call it box, and now let's access it from the JavaScript. So let's say our box is equals to a document dot get element by ID, and the ID is box. Now what we want to do is we want to say that whenever we move our mouse, so on mouse move, this is how you call an function, like this. So now we'll be using arrow function, and basically we'll get an event in the back. Event has two properties, one is called client X and one is called client Y. Let's say X of the mouse is event dot client X, the second one is Y, so is event dot client Y, okay. And basically this will start at here, so I want to start it at the center, so we have to subtract whatever the width is. So window also has a property called inner width, and we want to subtract it by 2. And same here, window dot, just if you're thinking what the hell am I doing, simply be with me little bit, okay. Inner height, simply it is going to be cool, let me tell you, I promise you. So let's say, we want to say percentage x, so we want to say that whatever x we have moved divided by the total amount of width we have, so window dot inner width and multiplied by 100, and we want to say percentage y is equals to y divided by window dot inner height multiplied by 100, and inner height actually multiplied by 100. And what we want to do is, now this is what you have learned actually. We want to change the transform property, translate x, translate y, rotate x, rotate y of this particular box whenever we move our mouse. So how do we have this property, percentage x and percentage y? We will just simply change this. And as we have learned, we can change the style by typing box.style dot transform, that's in css property, I think, and then rotate x. We're going to say that that's actually, this percentage x, so we can say percentage x, and this is in degree, so deg, and then rotate y, basically percentage y, then translate x, I know I can do translate by like x and y together, but let's do it like this, percentage x, and basically I forgot to put deg over here, and let's move ahead and let's say pixel, because translate is in pixel. Translate y is something, will be something like percentage y. This will be also in pixel. So if you go there and move this, you can see you can modify any property of a particular element by just typing this dot style, and then this is how you can use this. So I hope so this tutorial was good and you find this example also good. You can try this example by your own, and have a great day. Thank you for following, watching this video till now, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye bye.